Team, welcome back to the day 2 for our QTP November 3rd batch, and we're still in the first project that we started around the data-driven framework. So before I start with the actual training program, let me give you a very quick high-level answers to some of the common questions that came up to me some time back. So about 5-10 minutes max, team, on this specific topic, and then we'll move forward. All right. So what I wanted to convey is at the high level that these were the typical questions that a lot of people have asked. I'm not going to read through the questions, but I'll go through each of them at a brief length. So what is the core focus for this QTP training? The core focus, team, is what the industry needs, what your jobs require, what your projects require, what you're expected to do in interview. The number one thing which is not listed here is the confidence that yes, you are the right QTP developer, not just a test engineer. You need VB scripting, you need extensive knowledge, not just about frameworks, but what framework to use, where to use, and also more important, how to plan, design, build, and maintain each of these key frameworks. There are a lot of basic overview frameworks. You've got to go in depth about it. Then comes your descriptive programming. We also develop an entire keyword-driven framework purely on that, and the advanced concepts like how do we work with databases, Mercury device replay, XML-based testing, .NET Factory, many other various combinations of how you work with different dynamic applications and so on. All of this is the core focus of this training. There is no specific prerequisite as you would expect, but yes, I would want you to be a little patient because there is a starting curve. Be it installing, be it being able to join the live webinars or watching the videos, or getting the first scripts to run easily and so on. So the initial 1 or 2 weeks can be a kind of little uphill, but then it'll settle down very smoothly. So don't be in a hurry. You're fine. I will support you. Drop an email to me or call me if you're really stuck, and I'll try and assist you in the first couple of weeks so that you get really well started. Once you're fluent with it, then it's very easy. But please, team, make sure that you follow instructions. Your welcome pack will contain all the instructions very clearly. If there's still a question, definitely email. Give me about 12 hours to 24 maximum hours to respond back. If you don't get a response, call me. You have to practice, team. That's a must prerequisite. The reason being, when I'm teaching this tool, it looks very easy, simple, because I've structured it in such a simple manner. However, when you start practicing, it can be a little bit of challenge, and that's why you need to practice, get errors, get challenges, overcome them. That's how you're going to master. The other thing is basic computer skills in terms of installing any kind of an application, simple security setting changes, following those documents, working with an Excel, not the formula based or the pivot tables and all that, but just a high level overview on the Microsoft Office. The next question is there's always been live or videos. So for this, what I would recommend, team, is I've put this link up here. You should go to my website, and out there I've very clearly mentioned the most important thing, team, that you must note is that there is the same content. There is the same Google group, same support, be it live or videos. The only difference is in the live webinars, you are interacting with me live, in the sense you are able to post your questions in the chat as the sessions progress. Okay. So this link will tell you exactly what is it that you learn through the videos, what is it through webinars, and so on. Okay. Now, please note, all the live sessions are also getting recorded, and you will also have the video access to these live sessions. The intent is very simple. I want you to master the tool. It is just not pure learning the concepts or the basic fundamentals. No, there's a lot to do, lot to learn. You have to master the tool eventually. Okay, so that's the prime difference. You can visit qtplearn.com. You'll find the link on the homepage, live or videos. You could use that for your details. Okay. Next, welcome pack. Typically 12 hours after your payment or even earlier, you will get a couple of emails. One email will contain all the details about how to register for Google Group, what kind of questions you should ask where, how you should start watching the videos, in what order should you watch, how are they sorted in the folder that you'll be shared, given the access to, how to download and install your QTP trial version to begin with, and then any solution, be it trial extensions or you already expired a trial or whatever, you have the entire forum community in the Google group to help you out with it. Okay. So the other common question is someone is not able to attend the live class, either one or two classes some period because of holiday season or you work related and so on. Does not matter, because 70% of the members who join every month are just watching the recording sessions. The reason being, they're in different parts of the world, different time zones. They really cannot participate in the live. The good part is all the videos are there, and the real questions come to you when you practice on the tool, and that's where you have to post your questions in the Google group. Okay, so you can always start with watching the videos, opt for that option of video only, and then whenever you see the next schedule, I start a batch almost every month, you could look at if the timing is convenient, just upgrade by that additional $50. Okay. What else is there? Combo offer, QTP plus Selenium. Yeah, so basically there are two tools which are predominantly extremely popular in the market. Okay, irrespective of your manual testing or entering software or your seasoned test or a technology professional, QTP and Selenium is a beautiful combination that can get added to your resume. So I know there is demand. I know people eventually want to learn it, but these are large applications. This is not simple applications you can complete it in a week. So there's a lot to learn. You can take the offer by joining, by paying for both together. You can start with either QTP or Selenium, learn one tool, focus on that for 4 to 8 weeks, and then go to the other tool. So for example, you start with QTP now, you could then take up Selenium, let's say about 2 months or 3 months later, look for a better live batch that fits your schedule, and you could join there. Okay. The important part is when you make a payment for both, you get the video access right away. So if you have spare time, you're preparing for interviews, you want some overview about it, you could watch the videos, they're accessible to you. All right, next, tech support, install, etc. Melvin, I'll come back to your question. I know you already made the payment, so can you drop me an email? I'll answer to you on that later, please. Tech support, install, etc. is okay. Basically, team, any questions that you get either during installation, either during practice or your projects or your interviews, Google group is a beautiful forum that we have. It's a very, very healthy community. We all trying to grow from not only what we do, but from what others are doing. So that's the place for you to interact. It's a private community. You will have access to it once you're part of the membership. Placement and resume, team, is something I've been planning for a very long time. I get lots of requests because the good part is people who have been attending this training have been fairly successful in getting and finding the jobs, because it gives them the confidence. They can present themselves very well in the interviews, and they're able to get a good head start. So I've really not focused on that part, but I'm starting to do it, and you will get the details in the next 1.5 months about it. Okay. Yeah, Gautam, every session gets recorded, including this one. I'll be very unhappy when I see that, the session started and I've not hit the recording button. So I've got that experiences a couple of years back when I lost sessions, but now I'm careful about it. So yes, every session is there recorded. What's the last one? Okay, cannot attend live for this batch. I think this I've already answered, team. So it doesn't matter, team, live or videos, it's the same content. It's more of a perception that you're interacting live, but also the fact that people like schedule, people like a specific class routine to which they can stick for the learning, all that. So your call, your decision. Learning doesn't have to wait for a new batch. You can join anytime. So I know I had a full registration of over 200 people earlier, so I had to bring in more seats for this day 2 demo. Now, I could extend it as I promised earlier. So you could take your decision. I don't make any calls back to anyone. So look at it, take your decision when it's a good time for your career to take this step, either my training or wherever, just go for it. All right. All right, team. So actually there was one more question that came up. They're very interesting questions that I keep getting. One question that I received is that you've got so many videos on YouTube. There's so many materials on the web all across. Why should I go through a training for it? So a lot of people do self-learning. I have done self-learning, but I also took some brief training a long time back about it. The fact is, in a training program, the good part is everything is structured and organized for you, and you have a source to go for questions. Otherwise, we are always don't know where to start, don't know what to complete, and don't know where to go when you have questions. That's your main thing that gets covered. All right, team. So any other questions that you have that is not present here so that I could take it up before I move forward with our session? Meanwhile, I'll have my tools and everything launched. My Excel is here, which is good. Do we compare between versions of QTP? No, Amrita, that's really not, okay. That's a good question you should put in the Google group. And what will happen is you will see a lot of perspective from people who are working on different versions giving you. The 9 series had this, the 10 had these improvements, here's what 11 is bringing, and so on. So team, any other questions, please? All right, team. So good. Then we'll get started. We'll do a quick review of what we did on day 1, and then we will move forward. Okay. I had the record that we did. And so what I'll do, team, just for our help, I'm going to copy this and put it into a notepad. And I'll tell you why I'm doing this. So that's going to help you. So I'm going to keep that there. Open the DDF1. That's a data-driven framework 1. So basically, team, what I did is I started creating the tests, and when I did a save as, I selected the folder in which I made the save, and you would notice that on C drive I created a QTP folder under that N3 for our current batch. In there is where I'm putting this. If you look at it, these are actually QTP tests. They look like a Windows folder. You can double click and go and look at different file structure within it. You don't really need anything much to go out here. All you have to do is from QTP, when you say open a test and you're in that folder, you will see the same file folder in a different structure with the QTP icon and so on. That's the one you got to pick. Pick one of these tests and open it. When you open it, you will get the script with it, you will get the object repository generated with it, and so on. Not generated, but retrieved with it. So team, what we did in our day 1 very quickly was we used the application called edmunds.com, right, /calculators. We went there and we said, hey, let's try and develop a QTP script over the next 4 to 5 sessions, which can go into this application, enter different information into the fields, perform the steps that we were doing manually, be able to select different sets of data and calculate and get the results what this application shows. We then want to be able to see if these are correct and if we are able to do everything through automation. That's the focus of the next 3 to 4 days. And for this, what we did is we created the steps, everything out here, and we said, here is how we will go forward. This was for the recording process, and here is the one which we created very briefly for how we would ideally develop a data-driven framework. The font is too small. I'm going to, oops, increase it up a little bit. Okay, there you go. Now it's much better. So here are the steps that we said we will perform to move forward, and this is what we did. We created our high-level test plan. What was that? The details out here, what we're going to do and so on. We've then identified the objects from the application, and this is not 5% now. I think almost 50% done. Where did we add the objects? We went physically and added the objects to the repository. Did I really mention the reason why? Not yet, because I want to show it to you very practically. But the biggest thing is you have to be in control of this tool. You should be the owner who gives instructions. Do A, B, C, D, E. That's exactly what should happen. So the more organized we are, the more structured we are in our approach, the better we are able to manage this tool. The instructions will become more clear at that time. Okay. So we started adding the objects to the repository, and the other thing, assign logical names. So basically, when you add the objects to the repository, QTP takes them, it gives what type of an object it is, basically the class. Is it an edit field? Is it a web element that is referred to a text? Is it a drop down list, a web list? Is it another edit field, a page, or a browser? And it gives us the hierarchy. What object, child object is there in which parent object, and so on. So you would most usually see browser, page, and the object combination for web applications. The only primary difference, either you work with an SAP add-in or a Siebel or a Java app and so on, is that you would see the class names are different, and instead of browser you would see some other class name for those objects, and everything else will remain the same. Okay, that's basically the primary difference. So irrespective of the application type, your whole learning is very, very similar. Now we have not come to this section, team. This section is basically used to identify the objects. We will come to it later. But what we were focusing on is the tree structure where these objects are loaded, and QTP automatically gives a name to those objects. Those names are assigned based on what it sees on the application. What QTP primarily does, team, is it actually goes to the source, HTML source for this application. So if you and I want to see this, you right click using your IE or Firefox, go to your view page source, and you would see the HTML code. It looks at certain information from this to identify and give some information which is specific to this field as a logical name. What is that name? How is it relevant? We will come to it. Now, what I'm going to say is I will say that this is monthly payment. How do I know which object am I referring to in the application for this? Now I need to have IE opened. So I'm going to go to this URL. Actually, I wanted to go to calculators. Okay. If I want to give an instruction to QTP saying, hey QTP, can you show me what you're referring to by this go button? Select that button and say highlight in application, and it should be able to highlight this. Team, do you see for a second that it was blinking, but it was not blinking on the same object. It was blinking a little higher. Let's verify that again. What could that be the reason? It's a very important tricky thing that happens. If your view zoom is not set to 100%, it's 105%, you are seeing differently from what the tool QTP is seeing. Okay, so always keep it at 100%, otherwise your test will fail. It will not work correctly. All right, so this go button is the one it is pointing to. How about this monthly payment is what it says. There you go. When you go to the next page after entering some data here in Go, now you're coming to page 2. We went in the day 1 and we changed the names for this browser object icon and class browser to IE. It's easier for us to recognize it that way. Then I said the first page we will enter, it will be page 1. Then the second page, page 2. Page 1 has 2 objects, page 2 has a few more objects. Now let's see what is this object referring to. It is saying the market finance rate. Isn't this too long? If I just say rate, isn't it easier for us to recognize? There you go. What is this referring to? Your target monthly payment. So instead of monthly payment, how about I say something like M payment? So that, why are we doing this naming? When you write the code, you will see that it is very easy for someone to read. You will not work alone, right? You will work with other team members. So you have to have a very clear documentation, very clear naming convention so that anyone in your team looking at it can understand. Trade-in value. See, AC vehicle 2 underscore price. Does it even make sense for us to say what it is? No. So this is trade-in. All right. That's what I'm going to say. Zip code looks easy to identify. It is 90001. So I'm going to say this is zip. Easy, right, to put this. Anything else? Then I see calculate something web element. Let's see, where is it coming? There you go. Click again, highlight an application. This is the button. Okay, so it's saying web element. It is not saying a button. How do I know it's saying it's a web element? There you go. When I click on this, I see the class being displayed out here. Then what is this? Let's highlight and see. There you go. That's the drop down for the term for us. Okay. So I'm going to say this is my term. So easily rename it to term. Now I have created my objects in a specific order so that I can easily look at it. Now what did I do, team? I have added the objects and we have assigned logical names. So let's say this is about 75% done. Now we will create our VB script test parameters variables. So why do I need variables, team? In fact, you know what? Ideally, let's come to this step a little later. So I'm going to move steps around. I will say let's start writing our basic code first and then we will come to parameterization. This is all about parameterization. All right. What am I saying? Okay, QTP, now you know where these objects are. It is exactly saying where the objects are. Now QTP, do something. What should I do is the question QTP will ask. So then we have to say do a certain thing. And those steps are, number one, okay, enter the M payment on page 1 and click go. What did I do? I wrote a statement. What is this? This is a statement as a note, as a documentation for me, and hence this is not executable. So if I try and save this, I get a warning message saying information expected, end of statement. Why does it do this to me? The reason this does, team, QTP works by understanding a specific language, and that's called VB script. That's what QTP can understand. Okay, so if I need to pass instructions into QTP, I cannot pass in a pure English that I understand because QTP will fail to understand that. I have to use a mediator called a language that QTP understands, and that's VB script. Okay, here is my statement. So this fails, right? This is a correct VB script statement. That's what QTP will understand. But what you see here is not a VB script statement. This is my comment, my own documentation. Hence, these are called as comments. All I have to do is do a control M or use this icon, and then you would see an apostrophe is generated before that line, and the color, the shape, everything is changed for that. Now, QTP knows, oh, okay, that's just a text. I can ignore it. And here is also a VB script statement, but it is called as a comment. Okay. How do you learn each of these things, team? As I keep introducing new things, look at it, practice on it. You will master it automatically. Okay. It's just about practicing it. Okay. Now, that's the first thing. This is step 1. Step 2 is, now you know what to do because this is again another note for us. Enter the remaining values and click calc button on page 2. Team, does this English make sense to what we are trying to accomplish out here? So if tomorrow you share the script with anyone in your team, they're able to clearly understand what is it that we're trying to do. Now, how do I give instruction for the step 1 through this? If you are not sure, team, when you begin with, the simplest thing for you to do is to start doing a record, perform those steps manually and see as to what code is getting generated. That's a good place to start. That is, record is also a good place when you're stuck, you're not sure how to code, what to do, what kind of methods and so on. That's again when you should do it. Other than that, don't do it. So that's basically when you are in a when you're trying to learn, use record. After that, write your own code. Always write, team. When you're also, don't take my code and try and run that. Create it on your own. So the first thing I have to tell is, where is that object present? In my object repository, what do I see? This is IE page 1 monthly payment. So here is my object. For QTP to identify this, first I have to give an instruction, that a line here which mentions where is this object in the repository. Once it identifies that, it will take the description details, which we will come to later, and then go and find that object in the application. So step 1, how do I get here? To get here, it's very simple. What is the class for the parent? Browser. So I'll write browser out here. Open brackets. Automatically you'll see that QTP has added IE as a following to it. Interesting. Now close the bracket. The reason QTP did this is because it saw only one browser under your test objects. What are these check point and output objects? Later. Don't worry about it right now. All that we add to the repository will get added here in the test objects. Browser IE is the object. Only one browser object in this list, and that's why it came up in the parent list. Okay. Now I have to say dot. A dot gives me two options. Okay. Now I can do anything I want on a browser. For example, you see as soon as I hit a dot, a full list of details of what we can do. There are two main things that you will see in this. The first one is a brick kind of an icon with a motion sign. That is, what should I do? Browser is my object. What should I do on the browser? If I say browser.close, what will it do? If I say browser.something else, what will it do? These are called as methods that we perform on an object. Okay. So what have we learned so far about objects? Objects have names. Okay. They have specific names. For example, in this case, I said it's IE browser. Then it is a specific class. It's got a tag or a flag saying this is a browser object. Okay. In that browser, we are saying I could perform an action or an activity, and those are called your methods. On this browser, I can also have other child objects present within it. We are coming to this. Then you will see that there are other things called as properties for this object. Okay. Have we completed methods yet? No, we are starting to. Children object next, then properties next. Okay, but most importantly, objects have a name, have a class, and you could perform something on that. Now here all these brick icons are what you can do. You can go back on a browser, you can close a browser, you can go forward, full screen, and so on. How do you learn each of them? As we go, as we apply new things into it, you will learn. But the easiest way to know is just click on it and you will see a simple message saying what it does. Navigates to the previous page. What does close do? Closes the browser. What does home do? And so on. So those are the brick icons that we saw. Now if you go further down, you will see one more set of icon out here as a stack of pages. Documents rather. It is basically referring to child objects within a parent. It is not specifically talking about a page object. Alright team? Child objects. Now I can say on the browser, okay, fair enough. We have identified the where called browser. Now let's go to the page. Now I can say which page in this browser. So as soon as I open brackets, what should I expect should come up team? I expect that it will automatically pick up page 1. Let's see what happens. But I get a selection saying, do I want page 1 or page 2? Why? Unlike browser, I have two pages, two page objects under browser IE, and that's why I get this. Okay. Now I can select, where do I want to go? First, I want to start with page 1. Fair enough. Next what? Now you see that the kind of methods that you can perform are changing. Depending on the type or the class of the object, what you could do on them changes. Alright. So that's your second level of learning on it. Now let's see what kind of an objects do I see. See, I see web edits and I see web elements. So this is your web edit and this is your web element. And hence, since we've seen this, I see this. My code out here is very well linked with my object repository out here. That's the beauty of this tool. Okay. Now, first thing I want to do is go to that web edit called payment or monthly payment and then enter the information into it. As soon as I do, why do I get monthly payment? Why am I not getting a selection of all of these team? Any idea? Anyone in the team? Jetal, yes, I've deliberately put that there. We will come to it. It is not under the same page. Page 1 has only one web element and hence it picked that up. page 2 when we do it, we may get more. Okay, that's the idea. Now what I did so far is I told QTP exactly where to find this object called monthly payment in my repository. This is called object repository, where you store the details of the objects that you work with. Then you could go and then find the object in the application. So how, team? QTP script to repository, then from the repository you take the properties and go to the application. That's how the QTP engine works. Now I've identified the where part. This is my where part. Now what do I want to do? Do a dot, and you will see different things that you want to. But what is it that manually we wanted to do? We want to enter or type a text in there. Do you see a type command? Do you see an enter command? No. Then what do you do if you're beginning and you don't know what each of them do? Instead of going through all of this, simply do a record and see what QTP does. But in this case, you have to perform a method called set. What does set do? Sets the text inside the edit box. All right, team, focus and emphasize a lot on the clarity of anything that you do. Very clear. Sets what? The text. Where is the text? We'll have to come to it. Inside the edit box. That's an edit box. That's what we want to do. Yes, this is the method. Now I'm going to say the method. So far, I've only identified the object. Now I'm saying what we want to do on it. And that's set. Even if you put your cursor, your very, very important help, team, is your F1 key. On your keyboard, hit F1 with set method and you will see a lot of documentation related with QTP coming up. It's a reference for you. Don't read through this and try and do. Keep trying to do things and then go and refer to this documentation. Okay? And now it tells you what exactly it does, how you use it and so on. So if you look at syntax, it says syntax is basically saying the language, the programming, the structure in which that statement should be written. It says object, that is the where part, dot set. What is my object in this case, team? Can anyone tell me what the object we are referring to in this case? Or let's say what class of an object are we referring to? No, not variant. Monthly payment, no. IE, no. Text, no. Web edit, yes. It is finally web edit. It is not browser with the name IE. It is not page with the name page 1. It is not web edit with the name monthly payment. Sorry, it is web edit with the name monthly payment. You are going to this object. You're not stopping your statement out here, and hence that's your object. Now if you go to your help, it will say that's the object. What I'm doing is the method, and then there's something called as text. What is this text? What do I want to enter? What is it that I want to enter into the into that web edit field? Look at your code. Do you see this? Exactly the same thing. What is different from what you see here? Let me copy this, and what we see here, team. The names of the objects are a little different because QTP automatically added some. I didn't change it when we recorded too much. But you will also see that at the end there is this text. So that's exactly what we will do. 450. Now I have done the first step. Why did I take so long? Because I'm explaining the fundamental foundation concepts to you. Then now what do we do next? Then click on go. That's my next step. So how do I do it? Very similar. First, where is my go button? Out here. Do I need the name called go button? How about just go? Okay. So if I say browser, IE came up automatically, dot page. As soon as I keep writing, I'll keep getting the guidance of what may come next. Dot, what is this, team? Web element. So let me write web element. Why isn't anything coming up automatically? Look at it. Is this a dot? Is this a comma? Is this the correct class name? I have an extra T here. See, you have to watch out those things. Suddenly, if QTP is not doing something, then something is going wrong. It's still not giving it. Why? Is this a comma or a dot? Now, once I give a dot, probably it will start making sense. Why go came up? Only one web element entered. What do I want to do? What will a user do? User is going to click on that. but isn't it supposed to be a button? Why is it web element? We will come to it, not to worry. It is all because of the code behind it. Okay, it is a button, but inside that there is a text which is mentioned called GO, and that got captured. That's what we added to it, and that's why it came up. Okay, we will come to why it's web element later once we clarify a little bit more on the fundamentals. What do I want to do? Ideally click. Do I see a click? Out here. What does it do? Clicks the object. See, this is exactly what we want to do. Now, unlike set where I put a text in quotes out here, I see something else. As soon as I wrote click, I see something called in optional button. Whenever you see optional, that means that this method click, you don't have to provide information further to it. That is what it is intending to tell us. You can omit next. These are basically additional information that you can provide. If you do a click F1 on it, it will tell you. What it is saying is the object syntax is this, click. Where in the button do I want to click are these XY coordinates. Okay. Some of these extensions, team, you can develop over a period of time. You don't have to start with it. Start with the foundation, fundamentals, then develop over it. So for click as is. Now I've performed this step. Now let's see if I run this code, if it does what I want it to do. So shall I save this as DDF? I think we should. Okay. Ideally, I try and save it as different versions, team. Why? Because you have past code, you have the present code. So you're also doing a little bit of version controlling, but when you go and practice and when you see this code, you will be able to pick up the code specific to that video session you're watching. All right, team. So now I have the first two steps generated. So team, before I go forward into the next steps, should we go and test it out? So before you do anything, close your browsers, make sure your IE is not open, save your test, and then run your test. Team, do you have any question? What do you see? What happened? Something did happen, but it happened very quickly, correct? And where did I tell QTP that open Internet Explorer? Where did I give the URL for it? So two things, team. Where did I mention open Internet Explorer and go to that URL? And why is it, has it done everything correctly as I expected or not? Is what I need to know. So to do that, what I have to do is go to my automation and go to record and run settings. For a beginner level, this is a good option. But for us, when we are writing our VB script, no. We will give instructions from the code. Everything must be at the code level, not in some setting somewhere under the options here or here and so on. Okay. This is the URL. Thank you. Copy that. Say the first option, record and run test on any open browser. Apply and say OK. Now let's try and run this again. I don't want QTP to open it automatically. Unlike the last time, QTP is taking longer time to continue this step. Whenever QTP is taking time, team, that means that it is trying to perform a step, but it is having an issue performing that step. And that's when it gives you the most important thing in your QTP learning experience, team. And those are your run error messages. You master the art of identifying the solution to that problem, you will master this tool in a big way. Okay, let's look at it now. Still taking time. Why does it take so long a time? Because QTP anticipates that applications can take time to load, applications can take time to come up or navigate when you go into different pages and all that. That's why it takes the time. How much time? You can do that in the settings. But I'm still waiting for QTP to try and throw an error. 20 seconds is the default time within a page. For a browser, I believe it takes 60 seconds by default. Let's see. It's taken longer than 20 seconds for now. I at least hope it will throw up the error. It's still not. Still not. Okay. Let's give it a few more seconds. And see what is it that's probably going wrong with it? So team, while this is happening, any questions and a quick time check? It's 6:17, so we have another 12-13 minutes to go. If you have any questions in the meanwhile, please start posting. I will start answering them. Should we always copy paste the record and run script in Notepad to develop the script? Pratibha, did you observe? I didn't copy this code and I didn't paste that code. Did I copy this code and paste that code, team? No, I showed you how we did it then and how we are trying to write the same script. I always want you to write the code, always. Now here comes the error, team. This is the focus point for you. Team, when you get this, be very happy about it because you're going to getting closer to mastering the tool. Here is where your analysis is important. Here is where your focus is important in a systematic manner. The thing that is happening out here, team, is QTP is telling that it cannot do something. You told it, QTP, do this. It's saying that, no, I cannot do it. And it's telling you the reason why. When you fix this, that is when you and QTP are communicating better and you're mastering the tool much efficiently. What it's saying is, it says cannot find the monthly payment. What is this monthly payment in brackets? Do you see this matching text? It is what, team? The name of my web edit object in page 1 in browser named IE. Then what does it say? Object's parent. So is it saying that it cannot find monthly payment? No, read further. Read very carefully. Monthly payment objects parent IE of class browser. So it is telling that it can't find the browser IE. And it says then that verify that the parent property match an object currently blah 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 displayed in the application. Now let's try and omit this for a little later. But most importantly, it is telling me which line and an overview of the cause of this error. Is now I have to find out what is causing it. It is saying that it cannot identify that. What is now you have to reproduce and see and start to think like QTP. What is QTP trying to do? It is trying to find the web edit in page, in browser, and then put 450 into that web edit field, correct? Why is it not putting 450? And it says that it cannot find the browser. Why? Where is the browser? Is it open? At this point, there is no IE browser open. Oh, okay. Now I've opened IE browser. Okay. Now let's say retry. QTP. Now I have the option to say stop the test, retry this step, skip this or debug. Skip debug, will come to it. But let's say now retry. Oh, you didn't find IE. Now I opened IE browser. Now you say retry. Now let's see what happens. This is my browser. It hasn't gone to any URL. It is there somewhere, but let's see what happens. Yashota, I'm coming to here. Open the browser with URL, record the application action, identify and add object into repository. Okay, now I got a response back quicker. What does it say now, team? Does it still tell me that the browser is not present? No, it is saying cannot identify the monthly payment of class web edit. What did I get earlier? That the of class browser IE was not present. Now it found IE, but it's saying inside the browser it cannot find the web edit field. Those are the messages, team, and we will encounter a lot of them as we go along and we will master them. Now I'm going to stop this recording, okay, and tell you why it happened. It happened because there is no other instruction out here to tell QTP that, hey QTP, go open the browser. And to do that, I have to say my step 0, in fact, which we missed fundamentally, is open IE and go to the URL. But which URL? Team, which URL? We have it as part of a plan out here. Go copy this URL and say this is the URL that I want to QTP to go. So like we did here, I have to perform another step, and that instruction in VB script is called, there is an inbuilt method in our VB script called system util dot. As soon as I do, system util is a type of an object that QTP recognizes. Do you need to master what the system util is? No. Do you need to know how to use and where to use it? Yes, that's exactly what you need to do. System util is saying there is something called as a utility program. What are utility programs? Nothing. Whatever you can do out here in your run typically is your utility. So Notepad, is basically you're saying open notepad. It's always executable file. It'll open notepad. Okay. If you do this, it'll open a notepad. And if you go here and say MS Word, it should open Word. What happened? Oh, no, WinWord, I guess. It should open a Word document. Okay. That's what your run command does. Out here, you're running the same thing you're going to perform. If I do a Windows R, or you go to your start and click on, where do I have run here? Because I use the shortcut. I don't even know where it is right now. I use the shortcut Windows R, so I'm not sure even if I see this. Right click. No, I don't know. But basically, team, Windows R, you launch that run. So you're running a program, and that's exactly what you can tell here. If I say system util, now what are these green icons, team? The methods that we could perform on an object of this type. I could say block input, close, blah, 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 blah. Did I use everything among them? No, probably one or two apart from run, but run is the main thing. Run's a file or application. As soon as I say run, now I have to give details about it. The two very simple detail is if I say notepad.exe, it should launch notepad. If I now go here and say, what did I use, MS Word, team, or WinWord? It should launch the Word document. Let's test this, but I don't want QTP to execute these two statements again. How can I tell QTP not to execute? Comment it. Like this English statement, it will omit to run those steps. So comment this by just selecting it using your shortcut called Control M, or you could use this icon out here and it will comment that part of code. Now it will not execute this, but let's try and execute this and see what happens. So for that, let me first close my Word. Now let's do a run. Notepad open, Word open. So that's your system util.run. You can tell QTP to open something. What I want to open is my Internet Explorer, and that corresponding exe file for that is called iexplore.exe. That's the name, team. If you say iexplorer.exe, it will not work. If you say Internet Explorer.exe, it will not work. It is iexplore.exe, and that should launch Internet Explorer. However, I also want to give an instruction that open IE and go to this URL. To do that, in this case, I can give a comma and the other optional things. What are the other optional things? I said I gave the file part so far. Now I have to give the different other parameters. And the parameter is, which is that URL. Okay, so save this, but I get an error, a warning message saying there is a problem. It tells me where is that problem on line 4, and it says expected end of statement. Why? If I have to pass any information to the system, I have to put it into quotes. If I don't put it into quotes, it tries to identify, is that an object, is that a variable, is that a method, and so on. Anything that is as an information that you're passing will have to go within your quotes. As we build on this team, it will become easy. Now let's see if this I can comment. I don't need that. This should launch my IE browser. And if I'm launching that IE browser, let me uncomment these two lines of code. How will I do that? Control M, we commented. Control Shift M, you will uncomment, or click this icon here. All right, team. So that's what we will do. Now, the second challenge we face, hoping that the IE will get launched, is it went too fast between these steps. I want QTP to slow down, go a little more easy, because I'm still seeing what is it that you're doing. Are you really following my instruction? For that, there is another command called wait. As soon as I write wait, it tells me seconds, comma, milliseconds, which is optional. But I can say QTP wait for 3 seconds. And now I'm saying it will actually wait for 3 seconds before we go to the next step. Okay, what is the maximum time it can wait? I don't know, Amrita. I haven't tried it. Now I want QTP to wait for 3 seconds after it launches the browser, and then after it finishes step 9, wait for another 3 seconds before it goes here. That's the instruction I want to give. Now I'm going to save this file. Save it, close your browser always, and now let's run and see what is happening. Is IE browser open? Did it go to the website? Now see, it is on line 8. It waited for 3 seconds. It entered. It clicked on go. and then it went. Hey, but the end of it, I want QTP to also close this browser. I don't want to keep the browser open. Then what do? My step N, I don't know if it's step, how many steps are there between it. So I'll say step N is close the browser. That's my ultimate goal at the end. So how do I do that? Where is that object in my repository? It's called browser IE, same object. Now, should I say dot page team? No, I want to do something on the browser. So on the browser, what I want to do is close. Okay, so let me put another wait command for another 3 seconds before I see. Why am I putting this wait commands? Only because we want to observe what is happening in the background. That's the reason. Okay, not because it's the right thing to do, because I want to see. First, let's write the correct code. Then we will optimize it and improve it later. But writing the correct code is important. Now let's see. Team, so that's about what we wanted to do for today. I hope to do a little bit more, but that's a good starting point. Now, writing step 2 is hardly a matter of 4-5 more minutes. That's about what we will do. So if you have any specific questions, I would like to answer them first and leave time for questions rather than continuing with the exercise. Right? But team, let the questions be relevant to what we have done in day 1 and day 2. Topics or other things or for a later thing or training, please keep it for offline. Now let's see, I'm going to go back to a few more questions and then see. Mohammed, you said it won't work until you are, yes, you're right. So until I'm at admins.com and I navigate it, that's correct. Rename the object, is it correct? Okay, now let's see. Why did the error not point to the page like the initial error for browser? Yeah, because it said the errors pointed to specifically, is it my web edit not visible in the browser or is it browser? It doesn't point to the page because when you actually take a deeper look, i.e. what do you see here? Almost blank things. There's something called creation time values out here. The identifications are nothing out here. If you go to the page, there is absolutely nothing. QTP is just structuring it as part of this. So even if I take any of these objects and move it into page 1, it won't throw an error. So page is never usually identified by any properties. They're just there as page, as a filler. That's it. Okay. It is actually browser and then directly going into that web element for it or any object within it. Yusuf, okay. Team, if you generally feel that I'm going a little fast, I apologize. I will try and slow down from day 3. But the idea is I try and emphasize on a lot. If you look at the progress wise, we haven't done much. But whenever there is an important thing to mention, I always slow down and make sure that I emphasize on that. And then when I'm talking about really not so complex things, then I'm really going fast through the explanation. Okay. Okay. Fair enough. Point taken. I will slow down from day 3 in terms of how fast I'm speaking. But good point to also do is to practice along with watching this video. Okay. Prerequisite needs to be done before any run. We run any test. How and where do we do it? So there are a lot of prerequisites. In this case, here are my prerequisites. This is what I want to do. I want to prepare. I want to identify. I want to add them. And now we are starting to write. So I would say about 20% of the code is ready. That's my prerequisites to start with. As we go along, you will see the prerequisites list will get a little more complex and we'll start doing many more things. Does QTP record and run? Can we script anything on browser toolbar or menu? Yes, you can do a lot on various other things, but that's of a later question, Amrita. How will we decide to add respective add-ins? Depending on the application. If you have an SAP application, you have to get that add-in. If you have an application that was developed in .NET Windows client server app, you have to get the .NET add-in or Java add-in and so on. Let's see. Syntax shows parenthesis. Is it okay if we don't use while writing script? So Usha, that's a very good question. Some places there are parentheses, that's open and close brackets. Some places there are not. The concept will become very clear when we get into functions. Then I will emphasize what are functions and how are they different from sub-procedures. Okay, that's where we will know that. The way you commented after wait, is this the correct way to comment? So good. See, I have a comment which is on a fresh line altogether. And if you notice, I also have a comment after my statement. If I try and take this, cut it and put it, oops, sorry, and put that comment before my statement, then the whole step will get commented. Instead, if I do it after what I want to do, then it will still recognize that, but then it will say that here is the comment after that, and ignore that. Yes, you can always use this inline comment. That's okay. Instead of doing it above the line, you can do it inline. How will we decide what is the appropriate time to wait? Why did I wait here, team? What was the reason I mentioned? Only for me to see. When we go to the next level, I will tell you why you should wait for a certain number of times, or there is something called as a synchronization point, why I should use that. Can class names, object names, method names be user defined or they're system defined? Your class names are system defined. Your method names are system defined. Your object names are user defined. System defined is if I say this is browser something, it doesn't understand what it is. Okay. If I say IE123 and try and save it, it will not have a problem saving it. But when we're executing, it will have a problem. But if you write something out here, then it will start creating a trouble for you. Let me uncomment this. Okay. Varsha, that was your answer. Hi Karthik, is it a mandate to add all the objects of the application which is having a number of objects? No, not necessary. So as you go along, you will notice that what objects to add, when to add, and all that becomes very critical. In fact, what I did, team, I've added the part 1 of descriptive programming just as a demo because a lot of people had been requesting about it just a few hours back in my YouTube channel on descriptive programming part 1. This is more like a beginning level part to a series of 3-4 videos on it. It will tell you when you should use it, why you should use it, and how you should start to use it. Okay, it's almost a 1-hour session that I put in there. Do we need to use navigate? Not right now. And in fact, when you start using different operating systems, the navigate method starts to fail. So for now, systemutil.run. Okay, we will come to navigate a little later. Which is the better way in real time generating scripts by yourself, or is it better? Record, team, once again, record is never a good option. Writing your scripts is the only option. Remember that. When you're learning, practicing, and you're stuck somewhere, do the record. Okay, but not when you're trying to actually achieve it. All right. Systemutil was fast, but then you clarified it. Okay. All right. Yusuf, thanks. Will the QTP highlight on the objects after renaming them in the object repository? Yes. So we'll come to some of this object identification and changes later, the tomorrow session. What do you have in the plan worksheet? Okay, what do I have in the plan worksheet? So plan at a high level, I had what application, what browser, what is the functionality, how were we doing it manually, what are the different, do we understand what we are doing, and so on. How did we do a record and run? Now I'm saying to develop a data-driven framework, here are the steps that we follow. And we've also created a set of test data that we will use eventually. Will I be able to practice on the same application? Yes, absolutely. So all the applications that I'm using, team, are open. So you could practice on the same applications. I try and take as much complex and as need be to begin our learning. Okay. Is this VB scripting? Purely VB scripting. All that you see here is now VB scripting. This is VB script. This is VB script. This, everything is VB script. Okay. So now we're getting into it. Absolutely. So team, sorry, I know it's 6:36, but I had to take the questions. So that's why I'm doing it. Mala, can you please send me your email once again because it went off into my archive, so I couldn't answer you on that. All right, team. So that's it for today. We'll see you back tomorrow, day 3. Meanwhile, we'll upload the video. It'll take me about 2-3 hours, and I will put it on YouTube. Even this one, going forward, it will be on screencast.com, which all the confirm members have access to. Thank you, everyone. Take care and bye for now. See you tomorrow. Bye, everyone. Thank you. Melvin, please send me an email too. Anyone, team, you have a question, send me an email. If you don't get a response, call me back. Thank you, everyone. Bye for now.